let us head to the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, Alabama and Indiana. Not a matchup, but that's Godfrey. It sounds like a one-off Rose Bowl matchup from the 20s, is what it sounds like. The 1920s, not the current 20s.
Oh no, it sounds like a bowl game that involved trains.
Definitely trains and possibly a rum brand. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. And then they played like Navy and some sort of wing academy thing like 2 days later, and someone died of polio.
But no, that is the number 1 versus number 9 game, because Alabama won the 8-9 game. So number 1 seed versus number 9 seed. Indiana is favored by a touchdown in this game, which is another thing that if you traveled back in time 5 years and told them, like, hey, Michigan's going to hire a 66-year-old Kyle Whittingham, and oh, by the way, Indiana's going to be favored by 7 against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. People would have you committed.
Here's where I want to start. The thing about Cignetti that, like, it's not the portal wizardry. There's such a quiet consistency in the program that makes it that, like, he gets the Saban-esque label a lot lately. But I'm going through and I'm reading preview stuff, and it's like Indiana players, clearly there's an internal memo that any talk about analyzing this year's Alabama team is like total respect and deference, right? So all of the quotes coming out of the last media veil for Indiana are, hey, it's still Bama. They're Alabama. They got a ton of great athletes. Like, it's funny because, like, you and I do this for a living. You can tell what question was posed even without reading it, like, to what the answer was. Like, you can tell they're trying to say, like, hey, what did you see out of that Oklahoma game? Or they've struggled doing this, they've struggled doing that. And no, it's been a lockstep, uniform, like, zero bulletin board, zero Big Ten versus SEC nonsense. All of the tropey stuff that this game we sort of want to put on this game. Indiana has been incredibly quiet because, Andy, I think they're the better team.
Well, I think they're probably the better team, but I also think they're smart enough to know when they turn on the tape that Alabama has the athletes to beat them on the right day. And
absolutely.
That's the thing that you have to respect and you have to be careful of. And if you do respect it properly and you're the better team, then you do eliminate some of the element of surprise. And so there's a stat I go to for Indiana that I find to be just amazing in a lot of ways. But so you remember how mad Cignetti was after the Old Dominion game? That was the season opener. They won it 27-14. Old Dominion ran 23 times for 218 yards in that game. It was a 9.5 per carry average. They scored 2 touchdowns on the ground. It was an abomination of a performance by the Indiana defense by Curt Cignetti standards. Do you know, Stephen, what the largest yards per carry figure Indiana gave up the rest of the season was? And mind you, they played Oregon and Ohio State.
Ooh, like yards per rush.
Yards per carry in a game.
It's under 5?
It is 3.6.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say under 4, but that felt preposterous.
It does. Exactly. So Penn State averaged 3.6. Ohio State averaged 2.2. Oregon averaged 2.7. These are teams that run the ball very well on decent competition.
Well,
they got destroyed.
Andy, if I wasn't recording from home, I'd take this lovely iced tea and do a spit take when I look at, surely Alabama's run game has been success. Okay, that's right. It's not Alabama's run game of yore.
And that is what I'm getting at. Alabama struggles to run the ball. Even after the Daniel Hill 30-yard run and the 6-yard touchdown at the end, they still only averaged 1.1 yards a carry against Oklahoma. Now that also backs out sacks. But remember, they were sitting at like -3, and they did gain -3 yards on the ground against Georgia. So the Auburn game, they were respectable running the ball. But there's not really been a game against a good team where they've actually been good running the ball.
No, man, there's recency bias. And then there's also that I think we misapply individual game context when we're previewing the next. But yet I still feel like hesitant to do this on a podcast. What Alabama put on tape against OU, despite the win, and I think the win can be explained a little bit by they do have that raw talent ability to just snap up and get you. Like the block punt, for instance, that's a single play of pure talent that then flipped all the momentum. And Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma's offense was not competent enough to respond. But however, if you are Indiana and you have shown the ability, especially in big games this season, to sort of stultify that and prevent that from happening, then everything that every area in which Alabama has struggled down the stretch would favor Indiana significantly. So what I'm trying to kind of talk my way out of is, despite down 17-0 on the road in the playoffs, hostile environment, et cetera, when you pull that out and you get kind of sober about it, I still think this matchup favors Indiana significantly.
I think it does too. What you've got to do if you're Alabama is you got to make Fernando Mendoza make mistakes. Yeah. Alabama capitalized on, I don't know whose mistake it was, whether it was John Mateer's mistake or the receiver's mistake, but you had the situation where clearly Mateer changed something before the play. The communication did not get to the receiver. He throws the pick six. Like, you need something like that. You need to create it, like they created the block punt. They need to create some havoc if they're going to win this game, because if they let Fernando Mendoza just tear them apart, they're not going to be able to control the ball long enough to deal with that, because Indiana will get too many possessions. They will have the ball too many times to stop. And the Ty Simpson we need, Godfrey, is the Vanderbilt game Ty Simpson. Vandy game Ty Simpson.
Yes.
If that dude shows up, Alabama's got a chance, because that dude was 23 of 31, 340 yards. He averaged 11 yards per attempt, 2 TDs and a pick. He was dealing that. And that was and remember, he's at that point, he's coming off that Georgia game where he was unbelievable on 3rd and 4th down. In the Vandy game, also unbelievable on 3rd and 4th down. Like, that's the Ty Simpson that has to be there. Otherwise, it's not going to work, because Alabama, I mean, Ty Simpson averaged 7.7 yards per attempt. That is decidedly average. And when you're a team that can't run the ball playing against a good defense, you got to get more than that out of your passing game.
You're talking about the Vanderbilt game too. It's not just the Ty Simpson, it's the offensive line that has, just not looked as good, not been as consistent. Was not the SEC championship game. That was not the same offensive line. So I think it's that. I also defensively, like, again, as amateur analysis here, Kane Womack does some really fun stuff. Like, he does some really deceptive, wild stuff on defense. And that's kind of what hung Mateer out, I think, was trying to make it like pre-snap evaluations, and they move around a lot, and they disguise a lot of what they're doing. They're not beyond confusing Mendoza. Right. But isn't it scary to what we're talking about is the game has to hinge on creating like a fairly complex situation, which is like forcing the Heisman winner into a really bad decision because you're going out there and disguising schemes, when Indiana could just get very simple and kind of lean and win the game, actually, in a very sort of old school Alabama way.
Well, and that's the thing. We keep coming back to this, and there's no need to dance around it. Indiana does to teams what Alabama under Nick Saban did to teams, where they don't have these off games. They don't have random off games. They show up. They're pretty much the same every game. They perform consistently. They perform to a high standard almost every game. Like, that's what Curt Cignetti has made Indiana into. I mean, what's Indiana's worst game this year? Was it maybe either Penn State or Iowa, I guess?
Probably Penn State, because I would say Penn State, just because of the given what that Penn State team was, although they just closed out the season on a win streak. So maybe we're undervaluing the Penn State in transition there. But no, they are built for consistency, but they're also designed not to have those mental lapses. It's very first era Saban Alabama, where they just want to sort of, like, we called it the crock pot, when it was just like, it's a slow demise where nothing is ever.
They would love to run for 300 yards and throw the ball 22 times.
Yeah, Mark Ingram, handed it like that era Alabama, which, by the way, infuriating, not the most fun thing to watch if you're a hockey fan. Reminds me of like the neutral zone trap, but pretty. Hey,
go New Jersey Devils of that era.
Exactly. When you have a lot of really good athletes and your line's dominant, it's also the shortest path to victory, which coaches tend to take.
Yeah. One point, LT Overton, Alabama defensive lineman, should be back for this game. So that will help in terms of Alabama creating chaos. having one of their best defensive linemen back in the game, certainly important. So,
yes. The SEC homer, dumb talking point, whatever, even coming from me. The talent and physicality on that Alabama line is different. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they can just line up and lean and run. They would like to do that. I'm saying Alabama can create moments with talent. It's just that we haven't seen a lot of those moments created against Indiana this year.
Well, and that's the thing. We could say that if this were last year's Indiana team that got blown out by Ohio State and hadn't really played anybody else that's kind of that level.
Right.
This team went to Eugene and beat Oregon, which has a roster every bit as talented as Alabama's. And this team beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, which Ohio State has a roster better than Alabama's. Ohio State's roster is better than everybody's. So, Ohio State's roster is better than Indiana's, even though Indiana won the game. And I'm not insulting Indiana there. I'm just saying, if we just asked NFL scouts who has the most talented roster in America, they will all tell us Ohio State. And that didn't bother Indiana at all.
No, and I think that's just, I think we're kind of dancing around something because, we try not to say the same thing every week, every segment. But so the period of time that we're in right now is that I don't know if you're going to see programs with a vast advantage when you get to this level of the playoff, right? We flattened things out at the very top because of the portal. And so if we're talking about Indiana as Alabama of yore, that's not entirely true because that 2012, 2011, 2013-ish Alabama would have come in a significant favorite. And
the backups of 2012 Alabama, the backups on that team would have been the 10th best team in the country.
Yes. I think it's safer to say this. Indiana is modeled after those teams, but because no one boasts that level of depth anymore, that there's still a path in every one of these matchups. As we go through these previews, we can kind of create a composite or a style, it's like a flavor profile or hey, it's a little bit like this and it's a little bit of this or whatever. Bottom line is there are no games left that feel like foregone conclusions. And this one is like that. I feel like we're trying to talk ourselves into an inevitable, yes, Indiana's the better team. Alabama has every right and every chance to win this game.
Yeah. But Indiana's favored for a reason. It's not fluky. Yes. And Alabama is, and I think Kalen DeBoer understands this, and I'm sure that Kalen DeBoer will tell this to his team. This is a significant challenge. This is not, you have the more you have the more famous helmet. Therefore, you should be confident here. I am sure the Alabama coaching staff is putting the fear of God into those players because the players themselves will turn on the tape and see how consistently good Indiana is.
Yeah. I don't think that's an issue right now. I don't think this is the old days. I don't think this is where Saban would have to lose his mind going into the Citadel week to keep everybody focused.
Yeah, he wouldn't have to. He wouldn't have to send the message through the press conference. I don't think that's going to be necessary.
And Kalen DeBoer enjoys underdog status.
He does,
and is not afraid of walking in as an underdog in any stretch.
Not great as a multi-touchdown favorite, but
no,
very good as an underdog. So
yeah. One could argue that, and that's the difference between the Saban era, because I think a lot of coaches at this level will tell you that walking into a major game as a multi-touchdown favorite, it's actually harder in terms of keeping focus and culture. It's easy to walk in with bulletin board. It's easy to walk in and say, hey, look, they got a +10 next to our name on this game because they think you suck. That works really well on 20-year-olds. What doesn't work well is, hey, guys, they think you're so good. But by the way, please don't listen to that.
And that's what Signetti has to do this week and not Kalen DeBoer. And I think that helps.
And he retains a certain sort of vintage kind of miserable old man vibe. That man's got some Paul Johnson curmudgeon in him. And I say this as a compliment. I feel like he can stamp any entitlement out.
We're going to find out. Because this is the first time that we are, I think, as a nation, as a college football watching nation, respecting them properly.
Yes.
Let's see how they handle that. Because it's a first for them.
I have no bias or want or pick or anything like that with this game. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. If Alabama wins, great. I'm going to hate working in college football media for a long time if Alabama were to, for some reason, go in there and win by double digits and command the game, because like the lazy narrative would be unstoppable for a
There
while.
will be
especially
so
with,
much told you so from certain corners
God,
that,
yeah.
that may not actually be true. It may just be an isolated incident. But yeah, I actually, that feels like the least likely outcome in this game.